guns have a trigger? Why don't guns have a button? Now, for over a century, this is how we fired guns. I mean, you pull the trigger, bang, bang, simple. But what if I just did this instead? So today, I'm going to be answering questions that nobody asked and somehow still make it make sense. Before we get started, I should say subscribe. And I know, pretty ridiculous, right? I need you guys to use your imaginations now. Put this button anywhere you want. Just a tiny little button. Alright guys, let's start with the basics. The earliest guns were just cannons, right? You'd pour powder, drop in a ball, light a fuse, and hope your enemy stood still long enough for the process to complete. Now we, as an inventive and destructive species, thought this needs to be handheld. So that's right, we made the hand cannons. The first gunpowder handheld weapons had no triggers at all. Gunners used a slow match or burning rope to manually touch a flame to the powder fuse. Now that gives a whole new meaning to anticipating your shot. Eventually, inventors realized it would be way easier if you could just pull something like a lever and set the whole thing off faster. And in comes matchlocks, and the first full trigger is born. Now, pulling the trigger dropped a smoldering match into a pan of powder. Think a medieval gun with a fuse on a stick. Matchlocks became flintlocks, flintlocks became percussion caps, and by the 1800s, the trigger was standard. It was mechanical, it was reliable. It worked in rain, mud, war, and panic. And over 500 years later, we're still using it because it hasn't really given us a reason not to. Sure, we have different iterations of it, but essentially, they all do the same thing. But then, the button entered the chat. Buttons took over the modern world. Elevators, microwaves, doorbells, video game controllers, nuclear launch keys. We trust buttons to do everything from toasting a bagel to starting World War III. But not to fire a gun? Now why is that? Wouldn't that fix accuracy issues like jerking and trigger, anticipation and shots and all that, jazz? Now, let's be fair and not stupid, okay? There's a reason triggers stuck around. I can literally hear you screaming at me. I feel you typing right now. First off, ergonomics. Your index finger is already there. It's strong, it's natural, and gives you a precise control. Second, safety. Triggers take intentional effort. You can't just bump into one and sit around flying. I have to literally stick my finger in here and press it. Now, unless your name is Sig, but that's a whole other issue. So I say, the button would have to be where the trigger is, right? To avoid confusion. And if it was anywhere else, without the trigger guard, you would definitely bump into it. You would bump that button into something for sure. I mean, it's not like I'm bumping my mag release all the time, but still, imagine this was the trigger or the button. Put that right here, or even maybe further up, so it's just more of a tap. And third, feedback. You feel a trigger break. That's important, especially when your heart rate is through the roof, your hands are shaking. Now, I'm sure there's some nice buttons out there, but that brings me to my next point. Reliability. Triggers are mechanical. No batteries, no circuits. They work in snow, sand, stupidity. Gunk can get really stuck in a button. I mean, just look at your keyboards. Crusty. You could bury a Glock in mud and it would still fire. Pull a revolver out of some wet swim trunks, still works. Now try doing that with a touch screen button. You ever try unlocking your phone with wet hands? But first, just for fun, let's imagine what a button gun could offer. In theory, a lot. Now, depending on the tech, there's a lot of futuristic buttons out there. Some you could program or add biometric safety, make it fire in different modes with voice commands like Judge Dredd. Fire, safety, and all that stuff. Target acquired. Please confirm your Spotify login. And to shoot, the button can be anywhere on the gun now. For quick shots, maybe multiple buttons can shoot. Have 5 buttons on your gun. What's funny is this reminds me of that time, or my dad had this car, right? And I can't even remember what kind of car it was, but on the horn, the horn, there was 2 buttons on the steering wheels, pretty much where you put your hand on your 10 and 2, and if you extended your thumbs, that's where the horns would be, 2 little buttons. It was the dumbest thing because when you, in an emergency situation, he would always go to honk the horn and nothing would come out, and then he would have to fumble around and try to find the buttons. And by the time he's honking, the guy's already flipped them off and gone. This reminds me of that. This reminds me if we're changing locations of triggers and stuff like that to buttons and putting it on multiple locations, shit hits the fan. You're definitely not doing what you're supposed to be doing with that weapon. But yeah, buttons are squishy, springy, clicky, whatever it is. They're easy to press, too easy. I mean, you could accidentally fire the gun while holstering it, sitting on it, or just jostling it in a bag. I feel like your gun would have to have a click wall, like the button itself, right? It would have to, like, look at this one. Oh, there we go. That's when we know it's essentially a trigger at that point. You can't just be like, there's no wall on that one. If it was just a button, you would have to have a click wall. So you may as well just have a trigger at that point. Now just imagine that button was here, click, click. But what if it wasn't just a clicky button? But what if it was more like your phone? And then there's the biggest problem with super techie stuff like this. The power button. A button needs a circuit needs a battery. No battery, no pew-pew. It's that simple. And if it's powered by Bluetooth, forget it. Forget it. You die in pairing mode. Please wait. Button Gun OS is updating. Estimated time 17 minutes. Oh, it's not compatible with your iOS system. You need to update. Nothing says tactical readiness like a software patch. Now here's the twist. Some company actually built a gun with a button that still looks like a trigger. See, I'm telling you, Kirk Cameron's banana argument works.
Behold the atheist's nightmare.
Now meet the electronic arms bullpup. It's a real functioning 22 LR rifle with an electronic trigger system. A button, pretty much. They just made it look like a flat trigger. So no mechanical trigger, just a powerful switch, a solenoid, and a button. I mean, you push the button, or in this case, squeeze the button, and in an electrical signal, fires the round. Well, makes the hammer fire. Anyway, it even has a red LED to let you know the system's armed. Battery powered, adjustable trigger weight, collapsible stock. I mean, this thing looks like it came out of Halo. I want one, but I wouldn't trust my life on it. And for a while, this thing worked. I saw it. They tested it out, put 1,000 rounds through it. But around 700, obviously, just like any dirty 22, well, they were putting dirty 22 rounds through it. It started, malfunctioning a little bit, but then they had to charge it. So should handguns have buttons? Well, I don't think they can exactly, or you'd have to recharge it constantly. The batteries are pretty big. Honestly, no. Triggers aren't broken. And if it ain't broke, don't replace it with a USB powered death button. But I'm glad we asked, so you wouldn't have to wonder. Next time, we're making a grenade that only explodes if you scream into it. Fun. And hey, I want to hear all from you guys. What's the dumbest way you think a gun could be fired? Clap activated? Nose pressed? Retinal scan? Now I need you to make sure to like, subscribe, and press the button. You know which button.
Babe. Our t-shirt's here.
Whoa, hey, nice.
Yeah, what are you doing?
That was quick. I was practicing.
Let's check it out.